Mireu. Mireu los cotxes, la cooperativa, les portes.
Granada has been the historic industrial city, formed for the Alhambra Palace and couple more streets were plunged into chaos after torrential rain triggered sudden flash floods, sweeping through the neighboring and inundated homes, roads and shops. Within just 2 hours, over 85 millimeters of rain fell nearly the city's entire average monthly rainfall, turning normally for riverbeds and raging torrents. Videos shared online showed cars being lifted and dragged the muddy water, while locals waded through knee-deep floods in the central Palace districts. It felt like the city was undersized, said Lucía Fernández, a café owner whose businesses were destroyed overnight. The water came so fast, they barely had time to grab anything before he rushed in. Emergency service responded to more than 400 calls, rescuing people trapped in the underground garages and tunnels. Several rural areas surrounding Granada, including Vega, Cel and Genil and Armilla, were cut by collapsed roads and overflowing streams.
Sí, ¿dónde que vas? Pero coño, me traigo.
Authority temporarily closed the A45 motorway linking Granada with the coast due to landslides and poor visibility. Public transport was suspended, and the local school announced it closure, and the crew worker cleared the street buried under the thick layer of mud and debris. Meteorologists from Spain National Weather Agency attributed the flooding and get a fear, the cold drop and a phenomenon in which high altitude, cold air, coldest with a warm Mediterranean mist to creating sudden violent storm. They are becoming stronger and more frequent due to climate warning, saying Amen spokesman Color de Rio. The Dollar River, usually calm, streaming, running better than Canadian historic Alhambra water overflowing, is banked the first time in over a decade. Residents watched their disbelief in a murky current surging through the ancient stone bridge. Current bridges bring and Amen scooters downstreams. Major Francisco Cuenta declared a local state of emergency, pledging immediate aid and support the affected families. This is a moment for unity and resilience, he said during the press briefing. Granada has endured centuries for challenges. We will recover once again. By early morning, the storm had moved eastward, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Hundreds of damaged vehicles, flooded homes, and power outage across the province. Cleanup teams and volunteers worked side by side, clearing streets at the scene, and it filled the autumn air. Experts warned the southern Spain, increasingly vulnerable climate experts face moisture risks at the bird drought and flooding. For the people of Granada, this night, the water and fear of this tend to another stark reminder of nature's shedding balance. As a precaution, Spanish railway company Red temporarily suspended train service across Catalonia on Saturday. In Barcelona, roads were blocked and one hospital was forced to turn away passengers due to flooding. A plane flying from the city to US was forced to turn back after the nose was damaged by the hailstorm. This downpour, like it currently affected the country, was caused by the weather phenomenon known in Spain as cold front of Dana, during which massive cold air descended over the warm waters of the Mediterranean Sea.
Esto es Santa Pola.
Barcelona, Spain. Sunday evening, severe storms swept through the center of Catalonia, causing torrential rain, hurricane-force winds and chaos in Barcelona. In a matter of hours, the bustling city was transformed into crisis zone. Emergency sirens blazing through the narrow streets of the Gothic quarter as flash floods overwhelmed the severe scene, turning historic center into raging blue rivers in some areas, such as the Gracia, exemplars, and wave level rose by more than half of a meter, flooding basements, ground flood stops, and underground parking slots. The city recovered with a gust exceeding 100 km/h, which uprooted trees and damaged roofs. Near Placa Catulla, parking scaffolding collapsing, Norwell missing persistence. Authority closed public parks and promenades and precautionary measures. Local hero Mark Ferrer, a volunteer firefighter, recorded rescue an elderly couple trapped in their car. When we got them, the water is already inside. If we had 2 minutes later, they might not have survived. Tourists were also cut off guard. At least 13 flights were delayed and diverted at parts of airport due to floods and poor visibility. Social media was flooded in shocking images. Flooded subway tunnels, motorcyclists flooding the streets, and firefighters vaccination appeared in the coast. Red weather warning covered several regions in southeastern Spain have now been lifted, but more slow-moving showers are expected in incoming days. Orange warning remain in place along the east coast from south to Tarragona on North Alicante, as well as Ibiza, and parts of Mallorca, with a yellow warning cover a large area. The bad weather is caused by the storm Alice, named by the Spanish Meteorological Service EMET, which has been closely monitoring its development over the western Mediterranean in recent days. Flights have been cancelled, and the city of Murcia is already evacuating residents due to significant flooding in some areas. The storm is expected to bring a total of 215–300 millimeters of rainfall in some areas. Yellow warning remained in place on Sunday from Valencia to the South Tarragona. Sometimes the jet streams twigs like a winding river, eventually breaking up to 11 masses, a cold air in the upper atmosphere to separate from the northern latitude. These circular, teardrop-shaped masses of cold air from become slow to stationary, rotated over the warm Mediterranean Sea. They create a very unstable atmosphere. Public transport in the city was paralyzed. Barcelona metro line in 3 remained closed on Monday morning and buses experienced significant delays. Schools in several areas deployed to opening to remain closed longer. Experts link in event to climate change, northern Mediterranean storms and becoming more frequent and intense. They were seen in most normal. Cleanup efforts are ongoing, but authority warn in the morning rain is possible. Local residents are advised to follow the news and avoid necessary travel. Barcelona may be accustomed by sunny weather, but last night provided that nature can change the rhythmic in the city in a matter of minutes. Two people went missing on Saturday after heavy rain, including in Catalonia in northeastern Spain. Firefighters said they were searching along the banks and mouth of Foix River for two people who went missing near the town of cobbled, about 15 kilometers from Barcelona. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez called it a great caution and urged people to avoid unnecessary travel in 10 northern and eastern regions that were on high alert on Saturday. The National Meteorological Service EMET reported that 10 centimeters of rain and fell near Barcelona a few hours. Catalonia and neighboring region of Aragon were on a red alert of extreme risk due to rain and could bring up to 16 liters per square meter hour, according to EMET.
Mira los bomberos, ya vienen, ya vienen.
Hostia. Mira, mira. Hostia. ما شاء الله تبارك الله. تنزل بيبي.
A powerful wave of hailstorm has battered several parts of Europe, leaving communities struggled with the damage, disruption and shock. The severe weather-struck countries including Italy, France, Germany and Switzerland were hailstorm the size of a golf ball. In the same areas, even larger fell in devastation force. In northern Italy, vineyards in Lombardy and Veneto were shattered, with farmers reported crops losers of up to 18%. It's heartbreaking, said vineyard Gula Benager, surrounding the roof of destroyed vines. A whole year work lost in 15 minutes. France also suffered widespread chaos. In Lyon and Dijon, streets turned white into hail blanket cars and blocked drains, caused sudden flash floods. Motorways were brought in standstill, and authorities reported dozens of incidents and drivers struggled with the ice conditions. In southern Germany, roofs were smashed and a window shattered, particularly in Bavaria, where emergency crews responded to thousands of calls within hours. Madrid has been plunged into chaos after a powerful storm swept across the Spanish capital, bringing torrential rain, gale force winds and flash flooding that left entire neighborhoods underwater. In just few hours, more than a month was in rain, overwhelming drainage and transformed streets into fast-flowing rivers. Cars were swept away, metro station flooded, and power lines collapsed, plunging parts of the city in darkness. It was terrified, said Lucía Fernández, a shop assistant who was received from the standard car. The water rose so quickly, I thought I would make it out alive. Authorities confirmed several fatalities and dozens of injured. Hundreds of residents were evacuated from basements in low-lying homes, and emergency service working around the clock, often wading chest deep through the floodwaters. Public transportation suffered severe disruption. Madrid metro network were particularly shut, while train and buses forced long delays. Borough's international airport suspended flight for several hours, stranded passengers amidst scenes of confusion. Tourists were also caught in the chaos, with landmarks like Puerta del Sol and Plaza Major submerged. Videos shared online showed hailstones bouncing across historic squares and water pouring down the steps of the Prada Museum. In surrounding region, farmland was badly hit. Vineyard and olive groves were inundated just weeks before harvest, threatening significant agricultural losers. Economists warned the storm financial toll could run into hundreds of millions euros. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by a clash between humid Mediterranean air cold Atlantic front intensified by record summer heat. Experts warn that climate change is increasing to frequency such extreme weather events across the Spain, already one of Europe's most climate vulnerable nations. Saragossa, the capital of Spain, Aragon region, was hit by catastrophic flooding after continuous rainfall caused the Ebro River in these tributaries to boost their banks. According to the official sources, more than 118 millimeters of rainfall in 36 hours, a record for the last decade. Entire neighborhoods along the river were flooded, forcing hundreds of people to evacuate, and rescue teams used boats to reach residents who were trapped. Schools and businesses remained closed, and authorities converted the sports hail into temporary shelters for the families left homeless. At least 3 people were confirmed dead, and dozens of injured in the traffic incidents and building collapsing related for the floods. In the city center, cars floated along flooded boulevards, and underground parking left and the sideway station were filled in water in a matter of minutes. Rail service in Aragon was suspended, and a highway connecting Saragossa, Madrid, and Barcelona were closed after landslides buried sectors on the road. Local residents described the sense of apocalypse. In just half an hour, water poured into the streets like a river. We lost everything in the first floor, said Maria Lopez, whose family home in the Actor districts was flooded. Farmers across Aragon have also suffered devastation losers. Flooded wheat fields, vineyards, and livestock found trajectory in month on harvest and livelihood. The economic damage is already estimated of tens of millions of euros. Insurance companies are prepared for the wave of insurance class. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has promised immediate aid and emergency support, stressing that the community will be left without help. Powerful storms swept across France, caused destructive wind, torrential rain, and widespread flooding that left millions of people homeless. Authorities say it's one of the most severe weather events in the country in recent years. The Atlantic coast was hardest hit by the storm, with the wind gusts reaching 116 km/h in the Brittany and Normandy. Streets were littered, the fallen trees, roofs were torn off, houses and boats crashed into the harbour wall. It was one of the sea wanted to swallow the city, said fisherman Alain Dupont from the Saint describing the waves crashing about the pier. Paris was not spared either. Heavy rain overwhelmed the capital drainage system, flooding parts of the metro and forcing passengers at the west through the neck-deep water. Emergency service responded to more than 700 calls across the country in just 24 hours. Power outage affected nearly 500,000 people, particularly in the western region, and utility companies working around the clock to restore service. Several European countries are assessing the damage after severe hailstorm swept across the continent, leaving a trail of destruction from France and Italy to Germany, Austria and Switzerland. The storm intensified the unstoppable air masses that collided over Central Europe, produced hailstones the size of a tennis ball that mashed a car, damaged roofs, and injured hundreds of people. In northern Italy, cities in Lombardy and Veneto saw streets covered in ice, and hospitals treated dozens, and partying for cars in a heat injury caused by broken glass. In Bavaria, Germany, cars were left covered in dents and vineyards suffered catastrophic damage. It was like bombing, saying Hans Killer, a farmer near Munich. In 10 minutes, our entire harvest were destroyed. Austria, also facing chaos in emergency service, responded to collapsed roofs and blocked highways. In Switzerland, tourists in Lorenz and Alps captured dramatic footage in hailstorms, pulled it up like snowdrifts, transformed summer landscape in winter owns. Flights in Zurich and Geneva airports were had delayed it and cancelled after hail damaged parked planes. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the collisions between the Mediterranean air and the cold northern front, exactly than the recorded summer heat across Europe. Scientists warn that climate change is contributed to more frequent and destructive hailstorms and in the continent growing climate-related problems. Agriculture has been hit hardest, heat damaged estimates of hundreds and millions of euros. Vineyard, orange and cornfield across Central Europe has been destroyed, threatening both in the local economy and the food supply chain. Insurance companies are already preparing for one of the most expensive weather events in the year. Government has promised to provide assistance and clean up on the aftermath and the initial disaster by sending soldiers in a rural area to clear roads and protect damaged homes from the further rain. However, for the many residents, the storm was stuck remaining in the increasing severity of extreme weather events. Several European nations have been struck by a wave of violent hailstorm, leaving behind the scene of chaos, destruction and disbelief. From northern Italy to southern Germany, Austria and parts of France, residents awakened the road crowded in the ice, damaged vehicles and crews destroyed it in the fields. Meteorologists said the storm were followed by the clash of moist Mediterranean air with a strong cold front from the northern Europe, creating a supercell condition. Hailstorms, some larger than a golf ball, powdered the city center and rural area alike. In Moorish cars were left with the shattered widespread, while the Bologna Italy public transport was paralyzed. The hail-covered tram stack. Agriculture Associational report severe losses. Vineyard in Tuscany and orange in Austria suffered significant damage, for the farmers described the storm was worse than the case. One farmer near Verona lamented, "In 10 minutes we lost what we had worked for all year." Emergency services were inundated with calls. Dozens of injuries were reported, mainly from the falling hail and the raw accident caused by sudden ice flakes. Firefighters in Austria rescued motorists stranded on a highway blackened in ice, while the France-Front Valley flooded added the crisis and a hail-blocked drains. Video shattered widely online showed iconic city squares buried under a layer of ice, sparked disbelief among the viewers. Tourists caught in the storm described as apocalyptic in the like winter in the middle of summer. Experts warn that Europe have seen a rise in extreme hail events in recent years, while the climate change likely intensified with wildly. Scientists note that the winter air cold most may soon fall in stronger storm capable of production less destructive hail. Local authorities reported thousands of homes temporarily without electricity. The intensity of the rainfall overlapped the city drainage system, officials said. Farmers across southern Spain also suffered major losses. The high of the size of a golf ball damaged crops and greenhouse. This storm destroyed weeks of work, leading to a farmer near Seville. Experts warn that such extreme weather events are becoming more frequent due to climate change. Weather aide Hood Mama is through with a full, more violent storm, explaining climatologist Dr. Gieva Ortega. As the storm moves eastward toward the Mediterranean, cleanup efforts are underway, but many Spaniards are shockingly remain. A violent storm wreaked havoc across large parts of Europe, bringing torrential rain, strong winds and widespread flooding that paralyzed both cities and rural communities. The storm, one of the strongest in recent years, that hit countries from Spain, France and Germany and Poland, leaving millions of people affected. In the northern Italy, roads turned into rivers. In a matter of hours, the rescue service struggled to save motorists who were trapped. In Bavaria, Germany, entire areas were left without power and winds exceeding 113 km/h. Powerful Atlantic storms swept across much of Europe, bringing hurricane-force winds, torrential rain, and chaos in several countries, from the Atlantic coast of France and inland cities in Germany. Millions of people forced transport disruption, and emergency service worked at full capacity. In France, wild gusts exceeded 115 km/h, knocked down trees, cut power to more than 400,000 homes, and forced several airports to close. It sounded like a fire train was passing through our streets, said Louis Martin, the resident of Brittany, where roads are blocked overnight. Southern Germany was hit by severe flooding when rivers burst their banks. In Bavaria, rescue evacuated dozens of residents by boat after the local dam threatened to overflow. "We never seen the water rise too fast," explained it firefighters Karl Neumann. Rail service in the region remains severely disrupted. In the Netherlands, authorities temporarily closed its section to famous Afdijk dam due to fear and a coastal wave. Meanwhile, Poland and Czech Republic reported widespread hailstorm that severely damaged cars and groups. Farmers estimated the dramatic it's $1 million, especially in vineyards that produced world-famous wines. "It's devastating," said Jean-Paul Lefroy, a winemaker near Lyon. In just 10 minutes, the works in the entire season was destroyed. Further east in Croatia and Slovenia, hailstones the size of eggs smashed windows and stripped trees bare. Emergency service worked through the night and cleared debris to restore power to affected areas. Local authority described the damage as serious and extensive. Meteorologists across Europe are linking the surge in severe hailstorm to rising temperature and atmospheric instability. The Mediterranean is warming faster than the global average, warning climatologist Dr. Elena Moretti. This creates ideal conditions to explosive storm to formation of giant hailstorm. The European Severe Laboratory reported that more than 400 hail-related incidents were recorded in 34 hours, of extremely high number of October. Experts warn that such events, once considered rare, and now becoming more common due to the effects of climate change. Cleanup efforts are underway across the continent, and insurance companies are assessing the extent of the damage. From broken skylights in Rome and flooded streets in Munich and stories fury that what yet another stark reminder that Europe weather is becoming more unpredictable and dangerous than ever before. The Spanish region of Valencia has been hit by severe storm that has brought torrential rain, violent winds and severe flooding, leaving streets submerged and continues gradually to recover. Meteorologists say a system filled the most shoe by Mediterranean dumped more than 200 millimeters of rain in just 24 hours, one of the most intense downpour in decades. Entire neighborhoods in the city of Valencia were left underwater, and the residents were forced to wade through waist-deep water. Emergency service carried out hundreds of rescue, including drivers trapped in submerged cars and families evacuated from ground floor apartments. At least 4 fatalities have been confirmed, while dozens of people have been injured by falling debris and traffic incidents. The part of Valencia where the barriers in Europe was temporarily closed after crane that knocked down by strong winds disrupted shipments across the Mediterranean. Public transport was brought in a standstill, subway lines were suspended, flights were diverted, and rail services were cancelled throughout the region.
Madre mía.
The storm also suffered the European transport network. Rail service hit in Germany and France suffered severe disruption, while airport in Milan, Brussels and Prague experienced significant delay. Trucks were banned from the driving in some area Italy due to dangerous crosswinds. Meteorologists warn that climate change may be felt to intensify of this storm. We are seeing more frequent and violent weather events across Europe, said Dr. Hans Keller, a climate scientist in Berlin. European leaders pledged to carry off rapid relief force. France deployed military engineers to clear blocked roads, while Germany announced emergency funds to support a reconstruction effort. EU officials trusted to need a continental cooperation to deal with the climate-related disaster. For millions of people across Europe, this storm was not just a night to extreme weather, but another stark reminder of the continent's growing vulnerability to the fury of nature.